Now that Barista is configured, let's look at the process of rendering our projects. Starting out, we need to select our project folder. And if you don't already have a project folder, go ahead and click on this plus icon, choose a bucket name, and then click Create. For now, I'm going to use this one here. And as you can see, Barista is asking to upload a render file or archive a file. That means we can use a blend file, a zip file, or a tar.gz file. In this particular instance, I'm just going to use a blend file. And you can learn more about the other files in the documentation. So for now, I'm going to upload this cube file, which is just kind of a test cube render. And now I need to choose what types of instances I want to use to render with. Now I can choose CPU or GPU. I can also choose between on-demand and spot request instances. If you're new to AWS, I'd highly suggest reading up on spot request instances. It's not very cut and dry as you get into it, but the cost savings are well worth the time. If we look at the list of hardware here, it's separated in low cost, render optimized, and memory optimized. Low cost ones are, of course, very low cost. So let's go ahead and choose this T2 large. As you can see, this particular instance with the 2 CPU, 8 gig, it's at 9 cents an hour. Keep in mind this hourly rate is not how much you have to pay. And what I mean by that is if you use the instance for a minute, you pay 1/60th of this particular price instead of having to pay for the entire hour. So you may even find yourself using larger instances for smaller amounts of time, costing you less than what it would cost to render on, say, a low-cost instance. But it all depends on your project, all depends on what's being rendered, how much memory is being used, etc., etc. I just highly suggest that you play around with different configurations, see what works best for your projects. Now, to get this started, we can just click Launch. But for now, I have this other instance running. I'm just going to go ahead and select it, which chooses it for rendering. Now, if I wanted to use more, say once this one comes up, I could select it as well. But for now, since I'm only going to be rendering a single frame, there's not much purpose. And being a cube test, there's no reason to split that single frame up. If we go into the render settings here, you can see we have the option of what engine to use, what version to use, if it is a video render that we want to render, what format we want to render out to, what our start and end frames are, if we want to cut our frames up into tiles, which is what will make it very easy to render a single frame across multiple servers. So if you have a very intensive render that's a single frame, you can split it into tiles and have, say, 20 instances rendering a single frame or part of a single frame. And then we can choose the scene, camera, and samples. That way you don't have to upload a new file with those settings every single time. We can also set the render time budget. As you can see here, I have it set for 5 minutes, which means if the render takes longer than 5 minutes, Barista will automatically shut it down for me and shut down the instances. For now, I'm just going to go ahead and click Start Render. As you can see, progress has started, and we have the frame, memory, tile progress, and wow, that went quicker than I expected. And the other being the remaining time left per blender. Here's our output file, and I can click this icon here for it to preview the file. And since this is coming straight from Amazon, it takes a second. And here's the render file. Now, of course, if I'm happy with that render, I can go ahead and download it, and then I can move on to more frames and more projects and whatever else I need to do. That is the Barista Quick Start. I hope you enjoy, and happy rendering.